instantly. And so I want the people of the city to have an expectation of what happens. Assuming that the governor and I are successful with the president, it is not going to be that FEMA is going to be here next week. We're going to have to help ourselves for a while, and I'm going to show you how we're going to go about that. So we are preparing the case for President Biden already. And let me show you the case that we're putting together. In the last 80 years, these are the largest rain events ever in the city of Detroit. And so in July of 2018, we had a little under 3 inches. Up through July of 98, we had 4.34. In August of 2014, we set a record, 4.57 inches in one day, and President Obama declared it a major disaster. The report from City Airport on June 26, 5.77 inches. Not only is this a record, this beat the old record by a huge amount. This was not your imagination. We have never seen this kind of rain volume in our area in this short a period of time. And so that's what you need to document for the president, a major disaster. It's not that you had another rainstorm. You have to demonstrate that it is an event of historic proportion, and we feel confident that we can show the president that that is the case. Let me give you a sense of what happened, because this storm completely overwhelmed the design of the whole region system. Of course, you saw it. It was Ann Arbor, it was Bloomfield, it was Dearborn, it was Grosse Pointe. It hit a lot of areas, and here's why. The average rainfall for the entire month of June, if you look back over the last 100 years, for the entire month of June, we actually get a little under 3 inches. That's for 30 days. On one day, we got 6 inches. We've never seen anything like it. We got more than 2 months of rain in just one day, and most of it came down in 5 hours. And so the way it hit our systems, the water couldn't even get down the storm drains on the street. The pipes were full. The system was completely overwhelmed, and nobody designs systems to handle 2 months of rain in one day. And so the question was, how fast can we respond? But this is the documentation the governor and I will be sending the president, along with the consequences, and this is why the governor says she is so optimistic that he won't forget us. This dwarfs the August 2014 look. These are all of the houses that have already called in to report basement flooding to us. I think we had 2,800 calls. The only difference between the red and the blue were those who called Saturday and those who called Sunday. And you can see it was not one area of this city. And if you went down to Dearborn, it's probably even worse. But this hit us all across the city. And so now the question is, what do you do? And what is your city going to be prepared to do to help you? So there's two things you need to do. The first is clean and repair your home. And the second is file your claim. We got to get on the first one right away. And we're going to help you make sure to get the second one so we can maximize the reimbursement. On cleaning and repairing your home, the city will be there, and I think your neighbors will be there. First, and Gary Brown will talk about this, if you've got standing water still in your basement and you think it's a hazard, call now to DWSD 267-8000. Don't be going down there if there may be wires, you're afraid of what's under there and the like. At this point, if nothing is blocking your drain, you ought not to have water in the basement, so something's going on. Don't hesitate to call. Let the DWSD professionals come into your house, go into that basement, figure out what's going wrong. They are ready to come out and help you. Second, continuous bulk pickup service has started. And so our existing contractors are already at capacity dealing with the regular garbage. So Ron Brundage and his outstanding DPW team has put 15 crews on. They started on Sunday. Imagine getting that phone call when you thought you had the weekend off, and they started right away. This is continuous. They are just going to keep moving through these neighborhoods and going down the streets where we have reports. Put your debris out at the curb now. Ticketing is suspended. in the flood-affected neighborhoods until this crisis is over. So don't worry about what day is bulk day. Don't worry it's been there 3 or 4 days, I'm going to get a ticket. You're not going to get a ticket. I've talked to the police department. I've talked to BC. You're not going to get a ticket. If you do, send it to my office. Put the debris out, and our crews will get to them as fast as they can. I can't tell you it'll be 2 or 3 or 4 days, but those 15 crews are working nonstop and as much overtime as they can physically handle. If you're a senior citizen or you've got a disability and you can't remove the debris from your basement, we're going to help you. And I'm going to ask the public, because we've been flooded with calls from volunteers. As the Lieutenant Governor was talking about, people are pitching in to help each other. We're going to set up a process for your neighbors to help you pull it out, city workers to help you pull it out. And I want to again thank Dan Gilbert and Quicken. The reason we can handle thousands of phone calls is they immediately staffed up the telephone lines. So you've got a bunch of stuff down in that basement. You know it's a lost cause. You can't physically remove it. Call the number, and we will arrange for somebody to get it out of your basement and out to the curb. And then once your debris is removed, if you have the means, start the cleaning process. In 2014, about 20% of our residents had insurance. Call your insurance company, file your claim, get it cleaned up. Don't wait. If you have the means to clean the basement, get a contractor in yourself. Clean it. Don't wait. You should move on. The reimbursement will come later if we get the presidential support, but you should not wait for the cleaning. Nothing good happens by letting those kinds of contaminants remain in your basement. Then we want you to start the process for filing your claims for losses and cleanup costs. And already people are figuring this out. We're getting good numbers. And so the first thing is you can go online and file a claim with the Detroit Water Department. And you can see the website there is detroitmi.gov/water damage claims. You can go on that, or if you're more comfortable, call the telephone number. I know this is going to be publicized everywhere. And if you're not comfortable doing it online, you can even mail the form in. But we want to get that process started. Now, you can file a claim with the Detroit Water Department. But because of the historic nature of this, probably most claims to the Detroit Water Department, it won't be a defect in the water system. It's possible that there will be some people where DWSD didn't fix your sewer line, but for most people, this will not be a claim against the water department. It's going to be a claim with the federal government. But fill it out anyway. If you are one of those people where there was a problem with the Detroit sewer line near your house, you can get your claim now. But if not, we're going to use that information to get you a running start on your federal application to get that FEMA money in your hands as quickly as we can. FEMA has been in this country the primary source of reimbursement in major floods. So if you fill out your claim form, what's going to happen is, even if you don't have a DWSD claim, the minute President Biden gives us that disaster declaration, we are going to contact you saying, here's how you take that information, turn it into a FEMA claim form. FEMA will come out and visit your house, but we had great success in 2014 with people getting paid claims. It just takes some time when you're dealing with the federal government. And most importantly, keep pictures of your damage and keep your receipts for any cleaning and repairs, because when FEMA comes around, that's the documentation you need to get reimbursed. So take the pictures, keep the receipts, and there is a good chance that financial help will be coming. Now, I'd like to reach out to Detroiters who are in better shape and want to help a neighbor. We're going to have, it's going to be in the thousands, the number of houses with basement damage. And we got a lot of folks in this town that just physically aren't able to haul stuff out of their basements and out to the curb. And this is a chance for us to pitch in and help each other. I don't know if I enjoyed any days more than 2 or 3 years ago when the rising water was threatening to flood Jefferson Chalmers, and people across the city showed up and filled sandbags for days. And we really saved that neighborhood with that sandbag effort. We're asking people to come out again and help your neighbors. So we're going to look for you to work a 4-hour shift to help move debris from basements of elderly or those with disabilities. And we'll provide the protective gear, the boots and the gloves and what you need. We're going to move around to the different neighborhoods. And so on different days, we'll have the schedule before the end of the week, but on different days we'll be on the west side, the east side, southwest side. We will be gathering near areas that had significant damage and moving to those homes where folks are in need. So if you're willing to do this, go to DetroitMI.gov, click on the flood response link, and there's a link there that says Voluntary Emergency Response Sign-up. If you'll go on there and give us your information, somewhere around Thursday or Friday, we're going to send you a schedule. And we will say we'll be at the Northwest Activity Center on Tuesday, we'll be at Chandler Park on Wednesday, where we'll have a schedule. And so you can pick the day that works in your schedule that's in your neighborhood. And then when you get there that day, you'll be going with the city supervisors to houses, and they'll contact you. We also do a cursory background check at the time, much like we do with everybody who works in our sports leagues, and we just want to make sure there's not an outstanding warrant at the moment, but everybody is welcome, but don't be surprised at that. But I don't expect that to be any significant issue. We want everybody's help. Now, I'm going to ask Gary Brown, who's done a remarkable job the last several years, to talk to you about where we're going. And the governor talked about this too. We've got a stormwater system that was built over the last century. And it's actually a good system. In fact, it should be more than enough because it was built for a city of 2 million people. And now we've got 700,000. You would expect that that would mean our stormwater system has lots of capacity, except it was built for the climate of the 20th century and not the climate of the 21st century. And so we are watching in California and the West Coast with the droughts and the fires that go on continually. They're having to change the way they build their communities. You watch anywhere on the East Coast or the South with the hurricanes and the terrible storms. This new climate is a part of their lives, and they're changing what they're doing. And here in the Midwest, it looks like these huge rain events are going to be our biggest risk. And that means that the system that served us so well the last century is going to be fundamentally changed if we are going to prevent this from happening over and over. And the person who's been driving this and doing a great job is our DWSD director, Gary Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Governor, Lieutenant Governor, for all the support that you give Detroit. I'm hoping that you'll walk away with the understanding today that this was not a maintenance issue, maintenance of the system, or a lack of maintenance issue. This was a global warming issue that caused the capacity issue that has to be fixed. And the map that you see behind you represents 3,000 miles of sewer lines that were built over a century ago. There are also 2,700 miles of water lines. Over the years, we've added $1.5 billion in retention basins and construction along both rivers to prevent flooding. And the map identifies where those basins are. 9 retention basins can store 170 million gallons of storm water. Flood protection efforts in the last 3 years. We've cleaned out 30,000 catch basins. We've cleaned 575 miles of sewers. We've lined and rehabilitated another 50 miles of sewers, which essentially build capacity in the system to accept large volumes of water. Results showed last weekend the record rainfall receded from streets and basements far more quickly than in 2014. Much more is needed, however, by DWSD, by the Great Lakes Water Authority, and by MDOT. DWSD is about to start a construction on a new 95 million gallon storm system in the Rouge Park. The Great Lakes Water Authority committed to invest $750 million in the sewer system improvements over the next 5 years. MDOT is already working with the city on freeway stormwater diversion plans. All entities will have to reevaluate infrastructure based on 21st century climate realities, hoping the new federal infrastructure bill strongly boosts that effort. And this is a rendering of the Far West project that will hopefully start this fall and affect 1,200 homes in the Rouge Park area. And that's a rendering of the basins that will be put in order to take stormwater out of the combined sewer system. Flood response briefing, I think that's the end of the presentation, or?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. I think we've got the governor for about 10 minutes or so for some questions.
All right, so questions?
I have one quick one, well, two. Madam Governor, thank you for your response. You've been right here. Lieutenant have been here. But here's a possibility, including with Representative Scott here, that we could do something about the cars that probably will be resold. I noticed in the Detroit area from the flood up where it happened before where the thing broke, a lot of cars down here have had water damage being sold. And I don't know. I've been trying to call the Attorney General's office regarding cars. Can they be sold without claim or without, what do you call it? And if we could work on that, because you know who's going to get it. The low-income mother, the low-income, whether it's white or black, a sister or brother or something. And then my next phase is, Mr. Mayor, we had a team this morning out. And literally, I don't know where we would call to get bags and stuff. We're trying to help seniors, trying to help neighbors. I had about 20 people with me. I had to run home and change, take a shower, and get here. But rakes and stuff like that, thanks to the city who gave us gloves and stuff, still I had some left over. We used those, and then I bought other gloves. But where do we, for the people that's not on your team, can we get garbage bags or boxes or something? Because otherwise, what we did is just took something and put it on the curb and in the street. But I'm really serious about the cars not being sold. And maybe when a car gets sold with water, it needs to have a zip code on it. Or maybe we can start that with the Attorney General so people know whether or not that car was sold from another flood zone.
Okay, I appreciate the nature of both your questions. The first really is, it's the consumer protection question, and you're right to be asking of the Attorney General, but I will take this into a conversation with her. I am not conversant in all of the consumer protections that are on the books that would require, or if there's a change that needs to be made, or if it's simply an enforcement issue, but I appreciate you raising it, and we'll certainly do the same with the Attorney General. And I'll ask the Mayor to respond to your second question.
So Hakeem Berry, our Chief Operating Officer right now, is assembling rakes, bags, boots, gloves, and the like to be distributed in the next 24 hours or so. We'll be able to tell you what we have and where it is so that people can get it. But that's a great question, and the reason Hakeem's not here is he's working on it right now.
Thank
I have a question for both Governor Whitmer and Mayor Duggan. So it sounds like, you're saying this isn't a maintenance issue, but and you'd mentioned that there was twice as much water in one day comparing to 2 months. But this does sound like an issue specific to Detroit and nearby cities. So where does the issue lie in our infrastructure? And on the $238 million that you'd mentioned earlier, Governor Whitmer, how will that help the Detroit area? And basically, how does the city and state plan to stop this from happening again as it has in the last several years?
Yeah, this is the basic question we've got to ask, and that's this. There is not a community in America that sizes their stormwater system to be able to handle as much rain in one day as you'd have in 2 months. Nobody would build a system that big. So we're going to have to find cost-effective ways to expand to a reasonable point. And those are the debates. The governor's going to have to deal with the issue of the flooding on the freeways, which has been a big issue for her for quite a while. And that's what we're going to have to decide together. How much are we going to put into this? And what are going to be the most effective ways to get water out of the system of storms? Because in 2014, they told me it was a once-in-a-100-year storm. 7 years later, we got a second once-in-a-100-year storm. It's obvious to me that the once-in-a-100-year storm calculation, which was based on the last century, is going to have to be revised. And, Governor, I know you've given a lot of thought to this.
Yeah. Well, I will just start with this. I mean, everyone knows that I'm passionate about infrastructure. I ran on fixing roads, although that's overly simplistic. Infrastructure, of course, includes the pipes underneath the roads. It includes the bridges over the roads. I mean, this is decades of underinvestment in our infrastructure. And we're not alone here in Michigan. We are seeing infrastructure not across the country not be able to meet the needs of climate change in 2021. This is real. This is the confluence of underinvestment and climate change. And that's why I've been trying to have a comprehensive long-term solution to rebuilding infrastructure in Michigan. I led with it in year one. Legislature would not only agree, but not even put an alternative on the table. And so we've had to move forward doing some things piecemeal. What we need is comprehensive investment in infrastructure at the state level and at the federal level. I'm glad that President Biden is working to get an infrastructure package done, because this is not unique to Michigan. But our job is to deliver for the people of Michigan. We're doing what we can with the resources we have, but ultimately, for the sake of our economy and most importantly for the safety of our people, we have got to upgrade infrastructure, whether it's the sewer separations that need to happen across the state, or it is the roadways or the recessed freeways, which is a unique issue that we're confronting here with these particular roadways. All of these are components of why it's so crucial that we have a long-term comprehensive solution, and why I'm hopeful that maybe the legislature will come to the table seeing the impact that this event now has made very clear for everyone to see.
I'm going to keep up with the two-part question trend, first for you, Governor, with the highways being under the state purview. We're starting to get some phone calls in of people who are trying to get their vehicles that have been towed getting hit with $500 to $800 bills. Is there any state reprieve that they have available to them to help alleviate those bills? And if you want to answer that, and then I can move on to Mayor Duggan if you like.
Well, first I'll just say this. You know, my heart goes out to anyone whose home has been flooded or business was flooded. You know, the scene over at Garden City Hospital was just incredible. I've talked to people who are just devastated, and certainly a number of people, their vehicle was lost in the flooding, the quickly rising waters. First and foremost, I think it's important to recognize there's not yet been a report of a fatality, which is just tells you how quickly our first responders moved, how coordinated the effort was at the local level and the state level, all across the state. We had a couple of few tornadoes touch down. I mean, it's really pretty remarkable. But we're bracing for another few days where there could be additional precipitation, and that's something we all have got to be mindful of. In terms of those specific cases, Brian, you know, at this juncture, I think we've got to take a look to see if we've got some way to help those motorists. I can't answer that with certainty at this point in time, but I recognize that there is pain being felt by many in many different ways, and something that we want to try to help people navigate if we've got the ability to do so.
Mayor Duggan, for you, first I want to get your take as you build your case to bring to the president just how strong you think the likelihood is that there will be that declaration, that you will be able to get that aid, and if not, what else is available aside from claims through insurance and through lawsuits or the like for Detroiters to get some assistance?
Yeah, we're going to take this one step at a time. President Biden isn't going to give us a declaration because he's our friend. It's not how he operates. We are going to have to sell this on the merits. On the other hand, I think we have a lot of credibility with him. I was part of selling President Obama in 2014 on that declaration. The case is much stronger this time. So I'm confident that we'll be successful. If not, the governor and I will be back to the drawing board with a different approach. But as you can tell, we're completely focused on building the case and the merits.
Hi there, Mayor Duggan or Gary Brown. I think this would be a question for either of you. Can you give us an idea? We're getting a lot of questions from people out in Jefferson Chalmers about failures, power failures at the pumping stations, specifically Connor Creek. What happened there? And if there was a power failure, are there not backup generators that immediately start working? Can you give us the lay of the land on that, on what happened? Because I think that was also a problem along the freeways as well.
Sure. It's really too early to tell. There's an investigation that will be going on at the Great Lakes Water Authority. I do sit on the board of directors and will ask for an independent firm to come in and do that investigation. And as I said, in 2016, we'll be very transparent with the public with what we find out. But it's just too early to tell right now exactly what happened. We've heard that there were a lot of power outages on the freeways, and I'm not sure that there weren't at the plant, but it's too early to diagnose exactly what happened.
So do we know there was a failure there yet even, or there was, but we're trying to figure out exactly what happened?
We know for about 2 hours the pumps were down, and they were brought back up within a 2-hour time period.
Are they working on generators right now, or are they back to normal?
Full power from DTE at the plant. All 7 pumps are operating in a dry weather mode and prepared to accept any water that we may get in the next few days.
Do we know how much could have been pumped out of there in that 2 hours that may have saved some of the damage?
No, we don't. It's just too early to tell. There'll be some engineers and scientists that do the calculations after the data is gathered, and we'll certainly come back to you with a transparent response as to what exactly happened. But we don't have that at this point.
Thank you.
This is for Mr. Brown. Go on back up. What role did the Chrysler complex play in this whole event? They have a massive factory footprint over on the east side that I know has to have some sort of impact on Connor Creek because it is just north of Connor Creek, and there is massive parking lots, exposed surfaces, rooftops, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. That water has to go somewhere.
Yeah, that's an outstanding question. I'm going to ask the Deputy Director and Chief Engineer who negotiated with FCA on storing their water on site and how it was done. She can give you a better explanation than I.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. So with the FCA plant, they have installed 2 stormwater detention facilities that actually stores water from Jefferson North, as well as the additional parking that was constructed for the Mack Avenue engine plant. We can get you the specifics on the size of those facilities and what they manage and provide that at a later date.
Yeah, I just look around that area and I see very few storm retention basins.
So they have 2 stormwater retention basins, one at Jefferson, I think it is in Lycast, and they have another facility at Kercheval and the street Beneteau. And so those facilities do manage up to the 100-year storm, and we will give you the specific information from Chrysler on those facilities.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you go drive up Jefferson at Beneteau on the left side, Chrysler built a huge retention area. It took it really more than a block to accommodate that. So you'll see it there. And we can talk about all we want. When you get the biggest storm in history, we're going to have issues in the Jefferson Chalmers area, as we know, is a low-lying area. And one of the things we're talking about is, geez, it was just 2 years ago. If it weren't for those Orange Tiger dams, the neighborhood would have flooded out from the rising lake levels, which is a climate change function. And now Director Brown and I are talking about, do we need to have even more targeted things? And you get the same thing at the aviation sub at the other end of the city that's in a low-lying area. Part of what we've got to really talk about is, given this new climate, Do we need to focus on the low-lying areas and stormwater in a way we've never thought of before? And I think we're probably going to have to.
Thanks. We've got 2 more reporters. We're going to try to get these for
Okay.
a couple minutes. And then,
You're telling us to be sure with the answers. All right.
Hi, I'm asking about 2014. So I was wondering, did the city investigate the flooding infrastructure and the flooding after 2014, and what was the results of that investigation?
I unfortunately wasn't at DWSD in 2014. I took over in 2016. I know there was an investigation, and we certainly can dig out the report and get you a copy of it.
All right, thank you. And I guess if I'm allowed to quickly ask because it's shorter, do you know what has changed since then to now?
Global warming has changed. I mean, the intensity and the frequency of the storms is what's changing, and the system was not designed, as the mayor has indicated, for that volume of water, and it will continue.
Governor, quickly, get your thoughts on freeway pumps. Do you have them? What's your understanding? How many went down? Why weren't they working? It could have been a matter of some traffic getting through and not getting stuck.
So clearly MDOT has done a great deal of work in conjunction with our partners here at the local level. All the freeways are open. We've got I-94, which is still blocked up. Like your home sump pump, if you lose power, it doesn't work. And so that is the early report in terms of some of the factors that I think enhance the strain. But things are cleared for the most part. We are watching the forecast carefully. We want to make sure people know our grounds are saturated. We're trying to pump out I-94, but the question is, where do you put the water? Because if the ground can't absorb it, you can't just pump it into a different part of the city. So these are all important logistical questions. I think it's crucial we address the crisis, but seek to understand precisely where there are opportunities and needs for changes. And I heard Gary say, what's changed since 2014? Well, climate, of course, has, but also I would say infrastructure doesn't get better with age, right? And so this is a twofold issue that we have got to work together on to address on both fronts if we're going to avoid crises like this in the future.
That's what we're hearing today, is what can be done to work together at all levels if we're going to have the pumps to make them work, or make sure they work.
Right. Well, and like I said, access to energy is an issue for many, and these are all parts of the analysis and have to be parts of the solution going forward. And I just love how Detroiters ask 2 questions. Is there 1 question? All right. Mayor, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
今天 Tom 去打了 COVID 疫苗，这是因为所有年满12岁的人都有资格接种 COVID-19 疫苗。于是 Tom 帮他姐姐找到疫苗接种的地点，他姐姐把链接发给了闺蜜，闺蜜提醒了工作伙伴，工作伙伴又告诉了他的会计师。好吧，你也知道是怎么回事了。今天这一切都是由 Tom 开始，明天就会是由你起头。是时候让家人和朋友都知道，疫苗几乎能100%预防因 COVID 而带来的住院和死亡风险。抗击疫情，我们做得到。